Grace to you this morning and peace from God our Father and from his Son, our Lord and Savior Jesus, who is the Christ. Basically, I agree with the rich man. Don't you? I mean, if we're going to choose up sides, I'm all for living indoors, wearing nice clothes, and eating good food. Now, there may be some temporary setbacks in all of that picture, but I don't know, it doesn't sound too bad for me, really. After all, it's no great honor being poor, is it? Let's talk healthcare. Lord knows everybody else is, particularly those who aren't affected by it, who represent us. And if you hear a hint of sarcasm in that, you got good ears. But let's talk health care. There wasn't any for the poor man at the rich man's gate. You and I want it, need it, good, available health care. The only health care the man at the gate had were kindly and considerate dogs. God bless them. But lest we be too hard on that, the rich man actually was relatively considerate, you think, thoughtful of others. After all, he made a last-ditch effort to save his relatives. Send somebody back from the dead, he said. They'll believe that. And that request doesn't seem like all that big a deal for God. So, the rich man is right in his question. If only God would do something. If only God would feed the poor. If only God would provide shelter for the homeless. If only God would bridge the chasm that divides humanity. If only God would do something decisive, spectacular, attention-getting. If only God would do something. Obviously, God either needs to attend a class in motivational thought or get a better ad agency. This story is just full of thoughtful provocation, at least in three ways. There are some mistaken suppositions, one of which is that our present position is permanent. The story makes it obvious it may be more subtle in our ears. We do not expect our position to change. We are the wealthiest nation in the world, and we do not expect that to change, and we do not want it to change. Most in this place and in this congregation, by world standards, are wealthy beyond their dreams, and we do not expect that to change. The little parable Jesus spoke is just chock full of truth, because there's, of course, no guarantee that things won't change. There's also the supposition that wealth isn't dangerous, even though the writer of Timothy happens to think so, calling it the root of all evil. A little strong, maybe. Notice that the text does not say that wealth is bad or evil. It is not. But it is dangerous. It is subtle. It is tempting. It is false security. Not bad, but dangerous. There's another supposition. This one I'm more guilty of. You can pick your own guilt this morning. This one is that somehow the difficulties of the world can all be solved by knowledge. simply if we know more. And I like that. I've been working on it, failing but working on it for a long time. But somehow knowledge would solve the problems. Lord knows it makes our lives better in all kinds of ways, deeper. Lazarus at the gate was known by the rich man. It wasn't that the rich man didn't know him or see, good Lord, the rich man even knew his name. This beggar at the gate. For whatever reason, that didn't seem to make a difference. Now there's another piece of knowledge here that's kind of interesting. If you were listening closely, by the way, this is the quiz for this morning. I'm not sure what you get if you win, but it's a quiz. How many brothers did the rich man have? Somebody got this at 9:45. Don't lose out to them. Thank you. The rich man had 5 brothers. Fred Daker, who was a great New Testament scholar of a decade or two ago, said the gist of this little parable is the fact that the rich man couldn't count. For you see, the rich man in the story had only one small person knew that at 9:45. The rich man had 6 brothers. We only get one name, and his name was Lazarus. Right. He missed the fact that he may have had 5 biological relatives, but the man at his gate who was starving and dying was his brother. The rich man never figured that out. There are continuing superstitions from this little story. One of them is that we continue to fool ourselves into thinking that miracles produce faith. I suggest that yours and my life are filled with miracles just about every day. But Christianity has fallen suspect to thinking that somehow, if something wild and crazy happens, it's a miracle and everybody will love Jesus and go home happy. I believe in miracles, but I know of few cases where faith has been the result. Most of the time, we think that somehow the showmanship isn't enough, or the faith isn't interesting enough, or that miracles that surround us all the time aren't enough. And then there's this piece. The parable is about decisive salvation. There is enough in this world. You know that. I know that. Particularly in this country, there is more than enough. God is not chintzy in his provision, in his creation. If God made a mistake in this whole business, I'm treading gently here, it was because he put us in charge of distribution. The problem is not amount, the problem is where it is, in whose cupboard it lies, in whose pot it is. God provides, and he has left us with the great, awesome responsibility of seeing that all have enough. There is a life with God. Abraham speaks from there. Lazarus is there. God has done something to our questions. Why doesn't God do something? God has. That's where that little subtitle comes in. That's called Waiting for the Past. That's a nonsensical statement, except in this story it's absolutely true. For those who think God has not, they remain waiting for the past. For in that past and in the present, God continues to do something. God has done something. His name is Jesus, who died. Now remember the parable? Who was raised. Someone has come back from the dead. And obviously that miracle wasn't overwhelmingly convincing, was it? It is open to the eyes of faith. So what's the moral of the story? It's too late to change? I don't think so. That some make it, some don't. This isn't a story about heaven and hell. That things even out at the end? Or is it about God will get you in the end? Actually, that's true. But it would take me another half hour to explain the whole piece for you. It is really about an argument against those who think God has been lax in his activity in the world.